It's really, really snackable. You can take it in little bite-sized chunks. Some of the entries are quite short, but you can also, of course, just gobble it up, which is what I did. I don't know why I can highly recommend. Summer is finally upon us, at least if you live in the Northern Hemisphere, and I wanted to take that opportunity to make sizzling summer recommendations, mostly classics, as we do on this channel. We've got a range of books here. We've got big, chunky tomes. We've got wafer-thin novellas. We've got some non-fiction and a few other bits and pieces. These books have a lushness and or a levity and or a languor and or a longing, a lonesome longing and or magic and or melodrama and or a mosquito thwarting magnitude to them, perfect for sprawling in the park or lounging on the beach or splashing in the waves. Maybe not that part with your books. No matter how dexterous and dolphin-like you are, you're probably going to get these books wet. Let me know your summer recommendations, your summer TBR. Tell me what your plans are for the summer and how you plan to incorporate reading into that. I would love to hear from you guys. We are going to dive right in. First up, I've got Alexandre Dumas, The Count of Monte Cristo, this massive 1,200-page, girthy, beefy boy. For many people, summer is a time when you have a kind of relief, a bit of breathing room from your daily or weekly grind, and for some people that's the perfect opportunity to read a big tome. But at the same time, you're on holiday, give yourself a break, mate. Take it easy and just immerse yourself in the completely over-the-top, purple, intrigue and vendetta fused and soaked world of the Count of Monte Cristo, our Byronic hero, Edwin Dante, and the transformation that he goes through, the bloodthirsty, steely, overly romanticized hunt for revenge. And it's enthralling, it is gripping, it is, absurdly unrealistic, but that's part of the charm, and it's just something to just plunge into and just lose yourself in for days, weeks, however long you need. But don't be deterred by the voluminousness of this chunky classic from the 19th century. Alexandre Dumas' crowning glory, really, along with the Three Musketeers. I'm not going to say much more about it. Most of you probably have read this, but if you haven't and you were thinking about it, it's a fantastic summer read. We've got Bourgeon Tristesse by François Sagan and Ripening Seed by Colette. Two fantastic French novellas, Bildungsroman, coming-of-age kind of stories. Colette came first with Ripening Seed and was definitely an inspiration, a quite heavily drawn upon inspiration for Sagan. Interestingly, the authors were both very young when they wrote these impressively mature works. Bonjour Tristesse is the better known text, but I actually think Colette is even better. There's saltiness, earthiness, poise, and angularity to her sentences. It is simultaneously breezy, windswept, and wistful, while at the same time having a kind of barbed and bantering thorniness to it. And of course, Bonjour Tristesse is a story of nascent desire and jealousy and adolescent confusion, and a real tension between frivolity and melancholy. Bonjour Tristesse, for me, has a whiff of a fledgling novelist, but it's still very impressive. And they're both absolute summer reads because they both take place on the French Riviera, summertime, beach houses, hazy summer yearning that is unparalleled in many books of this setting. Next, I've got Between the Acts by Virginia Woolf. This is a novel that we've discussed before, and this is a pastoral English setting. You can just feel the cicadas and the hazy yet mild English summer heat, the golden country fields, the quietude and the lassitude. But what this novel does so strikingly is encapsulate that halcyon summer glow with the dark beating of war drums and the impending gloom of World War II. And so that only serves, that contrast really serves to heighten the glow in a very poignant way. Next, I've got Charles Dickens, Pictures from Italy. Now, like Woolf, Dickens is an author that we talk about a lot on this channel, but we haven't talked about Pictures from Italy, and it's not a book that I hear talked about almost at all in terms of discourse, Dickens discourse. It's possibly out of print. I'm not sure about that. I've got this old Granville edition, but it is just a real romp, a rollick through Italy in the summertime. You know, Dickens has such a keen eye for detail and for comedy, but also for suffering, an ability to capture the essence, or at least the tics and quirks of a particular individual, but at the same time proffering a real empathy and generosity of spirit and kindness. So that's a very powerful novelistic or literary force. Of course, that's, you know, first and foremost, like it's a human kindness, but it allows him to draw unforgettable characters because he sees them in their flawed complexity rather than being flat, you know, archetypes. And of course it's dated. Of course Dickens, you know, was not Italian, although he was fluent in the Italian language. But there is just such a drowsiness of these kind of semi-forgotten towns, rotting frescoes, just long days wreathed in vines and wine and music and decaying churches. It's very picturesque. Or just picture being on a bonfire on a beach, and a dear friend of yours has just come back from a tour of Italy and is just describing so exquisitely all of the sights and sounds and smells of his adventures there. And that's what Pictures from Italy feels like. So it's a really fantastic non-fiction summer read. Next, I've got another chunker here. I've got The Lord of the Rings by JRR Tolkien. This is a beloved classic. You could argue that it's a kind of cozy, wintry read, but again, especially for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, summer is often the time to embark on a journey through a longer book. If you didn't manage to get to this in your childhood, now might be the perfect time. It is, of course, immortalized in the amazing trilogy of films, but the book obviously has textual richness and interiority that the films, you know, don't always convey fully. Although the films, I think the match of adaptation and original text is quite superlative in the Lord of the Rings. There's not many films that do justice to the original work in the way that the films do. However, of course, it's a very immersive and deep and engaging story. And again, even though it's big and chunky, it's got whip and whirl to it, and a world unto itself, of course. It's a beautiful story of hope in the bleakest, most abysmal moments, and of courage in spite of the odds, and of camaraderie and faithfulness and humility. It does have, of course, very mythic overlays, and it's got a kind of biblical kind of prose to it, which can be irksome if you're more into, you know, the formal elements of fiction, which I am, admittedly. But I've been rereading this lately, and, you know, you just got to let go of expecting, you know, extraordinarily dynamic sentences. It's got an intentional whiff of mythos to it. Now, as bad as I am at maths, you know, this is, don't count this as one of my 10 books. This is just an adjacent little note to say that if you haven't read The Hobbit, maybe that is where you want to start. It's a little bit less daunting in its scale, and I've got these wonderful HarperCollins matching editions, lovely inlaid details there. I've got 2 Shakespeare plays. I've got Midsummer Night's Dream and As You Like It. Now, these are phantasmagorical. They are all about the kind of green-fingered renewal of summertime, of deep, warm nights, and the invigorating greenery of nature and being away from the city life. Imaginative power of the woods and of the trees and of the forest and of an escape from the confines of urban city dwelling. Freedom of volition and imagining that our attunement to those green spaces gives. There's definitely some interesting parallels here in that juxtaposition of town and country. They're just really luscious lyrical summer reads if you're wanting a bit of Shakespeare this summer. To end off here, I've got 2 that I am calling classics. It's up for debate, of course. They're both quite contemporary books. I've got Nami the Boat. Now, this is, you know, summer is often about going on holiday, but, you know, we live in inflationary times. Travel is very expensive. And if you're looking for a kind of internal journey, a realistic but adventurous exploration of different sites of different places and cultures encapsulated within a single book, then I highly recommend Nami the Boat. I don't know why I can't highly recommend Nami the Boat. There is just a gorgeous urgency and fierce hunger to taste and to experience and to connect with with myriad peoples and landscapes in this fantastic collection of short stories. Nam was born in Vietnam, and his parents arrived as refugees in Australia in the 1980s or the 1990s. And the stories go from Colombia to Japan to Iran to Australia, all over the place. But they are just suffused with rich prose, descriptive prowess. One thing that these stories have in common is a majestic literary soaring that is so invigorating, and for me it's a fantastic summer read. Those of you that watch this channel regularly know that I really love to read diaries, and for me this is a great combination of that desire to read the raw outpourings of a diary, but at the same time with a real brevity and fun-loving, freewheeling quirkiness, and that is David Sedaris' Theft by Finding, the first volume of his diaries. It's a chunky thing, but it's it's really, really snackable. You can take it in little bite-sized chunks. Some of the entries are quite short, but you can also, of course, just gobble it up, which is what I did. Why am I recommending this as a summer read? I read this in the summer of 2018, and it's very connected with that particular time and place. I was in a small town in England, and I was just kind of wandering around, spending many days on my own, sitting in cafes, drinking iced coffee, walking through the commons and the fields, and up the winding, steep cobblestones of the town up to its famous cathedral. And I was reading Theft by Finding and writing my own diary entries, and it was just a very lush and reflective time for me as I was about to embark on a huge new chapter of my life, a life-changing shift in direction, and it's just very connected with that summer feeling for me. So yeah, that is my 10th recommendation. This, I'm not recommending it in terms of this list, this final little extra thing for those of you that have stuck it out all the way to the end. Thank you for doing that. I was just browsing through my shelves to make the list for this video, and I came across this anthology published by the Scottish press Drake, and it's Summer Anywhere. And I was actually included in this anthology, and it is quite a summery poem called Dear Amsterdam. So I thought I would read it to you, and this one I dedicated to the editor of my 3 books of poetry at Hedgehog Poetry, Mark Davidson. And this poem was included in my second book, Open Letters to the Sky, in slightly different form. And it goes, Dear Amsterdam. Outside the waffle shop, the crows scoop fallen fudge sundaes, their blue-black beaks like brushes dipped in paint. And my heart is the same, always seeking someone else's fallen sweetness. Then, passing cheese shop number 753 and passing the park of red and gold molting trees, I see my neighbor, the Somalian architect, teaching his precocious kid taekwondo. Now I am nearing home, crossing the bridge over the river, flowing over buried treasure, secrets and bones, when I overhear the river singing. Our sons will surely grow up to be the kind of mothers our fathers never were, and I'm struck with love for this autumn day in my russet-coloured wedge of the love-drunk hurting world, the city that I've never dreamed would be home, and to be honest, I'm still scared of losing it, losing my little life in this half-built heaven. And I wonder if today's fear will make tomorrow's peace even sweeter. Well, it's been a long time since I read that poem, and actually, as I was, barreling my way through it, I realized that that I have this line, I'm struck with love for this autumn day. So it's a summer anthology, but I snuck in a bit of autumn there inadvertently. And yeah, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your summer recommendations, your summer TBR. Tell me what your plans are for the summer and how you plan to incorporate reading into that. I would love to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and speak to you all soon. Have a great summer.